A wise man once said, and I said this yesterday, I'll repeat it today, history doesn't feel like history. It's just hard work and engagement on an ordinary day. Welcome to history. Give yourselves a round of applause. My name is Toni Simmons Henson, and I'm the Executive Director of SETC, and I'm so happy to welcome you here to the 75th anniversary of this institution. I am just delighted to be here, and it's a special moment because it was a hard road getting here. It has not been easy. It has not been easy, but we're here and we're celebrating. And what I want to do is I want to celebrate love. This industry is tough and it's mean and it's mean-spirited. But when you come to SETC, I want each and every one of you, and I'm so glad these young people are sitting in front of me because you're my reason why. I want you to come here and feel as though you are loved, you are accepted, you are validated, and you can make mistakes. Because at the end of the day, we're here because we're human, and we want to grow, and we want to build, and we want to be more. And that's okay. If you fall down, you get up. And hopefully, we'll be here to help pick you up, to lift you up. So when you show up, you can show up your best self. And that's from my heart. That is truly from my heart. But now I will, thank you. So now I'm going to introduce you to someone who loved me when I decided that I wanted to start the Atlanta Black Theater Festival. For those of you who don't know, I'm the founder of the Atlanta Black Theater Festival. And I went into his office. His name is Micheal Dinwiddie. I went into his office. I need some water. My mouth gets dry when I get emotional. I went into his office at NYU. And I said, I want to start the Atlanta Black Theater Festival, Mr. Black Theater. And he said, okay. I said, well, I'm a lover of the arts. I've got a business degree. I got from Howard University. Somebody HU? No, HU, you know. And I have a graduate degree from NYU. And I said, I love theater. I'm a theater enthusiast. I love theater. I want to start a festival where people, again, can feel validated and they can tell their stories. They can share their stories. And he said, well, what do you know about Black theater? And I said, oh, I love it. He said, well, how are you going to start the Atlanta Black Theater Festival? And you don't know anything about, I love theater. And then he started pulling books off his shelf. He said, well, if you're going to do anything in Black theater, as, our best professors have done. He wasn't my professor at the time. He said, read this book, and then read this book, and then go to this institution and study this and do this, and then you can produce Black theater. And I listened to him. And he has been encouraging me and pushing me. So he's my mentor. So I encourage you all to get a Micheal Dinwiddie in your life. Because you will, trust me, it works. He works. All right, so Micheal Dinwiddie is a creative entrepreneur whose projects span theater, film, magazine, and music publishing. A dramatic whose works have been produced in New York, regional, and educational theater. He was an inaugural Disney Fellow at Touchstone Pictures and a staff member for the ABC TV comedy Hanging with Mr. Cooper. Honors include the 2023 NYU Martin Luther King Jr. Humanitarian Award and establishment of the Micheal Dinwiddie Playwright Award by the Black Liberation Arts Center. Recognized as a visionary leader and catalyst for institution building by the National Black Theater. He was presented with that organization's Frederica L. Tier Spirit Award. Micheal serves on the boards of NewFest, LGBTQ+ Film and Media, the College of Fellows of the American Theater, the Richard Hunt Legacy Foundation, the Black Theater Network, and as president of the August Wilson Society. He is a tenured professor of dramatic writing at NYU's Gallatin School. All the way to Mobile, Alabama, by way of New York and, first off, Detroit, Michigan. Welcome to the stage, Mr. Micheal Dinwiddie.
Thank you. Thank you. This was a great program. I'll see you guys. I just have to say this has been a wonderful experience for me. It's my first time at SETC. I don't know how you can be in the theater and not be part of this, and I want to thank Tony for inviting me to come and making me a part of this amazing, amazing organization. And 75 years is quite a milestone, and so it makes it even more wonderful and incredible that this is my first one. So thank you very much, Tony, for inviting me and having me here. I'm really excited because the lady I'm going to introduce you to, I have to tell you, we've known each other for quite a long time. We actually went to college together, Wayne State University, and we're going to talk about some of the different experiences we have. But you know her better than I do already because she was Lieutenant Anita Van Buren for many years. And so I wanted to see it. And she also was on another show with a little guy named Pee Wee Herman. And she also has been on the stage in many plays. And she's been all over the country. And so usually this is not a traditional introduction because we're going to talk and have fun. And she actually helped put together an amazing slideshow that will help you understand her career. But we want to talk about her as a student, as a young person, what she experienced in college, her family life. And in other words, in 3 hours from now when we're done, no, we're going to do about 20, 25 minutes, and then we'll open up because I know you have lots of questions. I'd like to welcome to the stage Epatha Merkerson. Are you going to help me?
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
And I thought I had gotten some nice applause. So hi, Epatha, how you doing?
This is fun.
Isn't it? It's
literally we went to college together.
We sure did.
We realized last night that we've known each other years.
It's really true. It's
almost
really
50 years.
50 years.
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing? Don't we look good? So Epatha, first I want you to tell me a little bit about where you grew up and your family, things like that, and then we'll start to talk about your career.
I'm the last of 5 children, grew up in Detroit, Cooley High School.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went to Indiana University for a year, and then I ended up back at Wayne State, where we met.
Mm-hmm.
And there was always music in our home. My oldest brother played guitar. My mother sang in church. So there was always music happening. And no one in my family went this direction but me. So they all thought I was, crazy and going a little overboard. I was always, in the house or dancing in the house. And I remember when I told my mother that I was going to major in theater, she suggested that I get a major in history or English because she knew that I did love those subjects. And I said, no. At first, I wanted to dance.
Right.
I danced a lot. And I remember when I did go to college, she refused to pay for my schooling because she said, I think that this is not something that you should major in. And I said, okay. And she said, so you're going to change your major? I said, no, I'm going to pay for college. Mm-hmm. So I paid for my schooling.
You've always had that kind of drive. And what triggered for you the theater? What made you say you wanted to do theater?
I'd always done it in junior high and high school.
Starring roles? Were you in starring roles?
Not always. I remember we did a production of 12 Angry Men, but it was 12 Angry Jurors, so that women could be in it. Well, girls at that point. But, yeah, it had always been something that I enjoyed doing. And my first year of school, I was actually at Eastern Michigan because they had a great dance program. Mm-hmm. And then there was something about being lazy that made me say, well, I don't know if I'm going to be doing this. So let me just start acting classes. That's what I did.
I love the story, too, of your high school teacher, Carolyn. You want to talk about Carolyn Hardy?
Yes, Carolyn Hardy was, in your life, and I'm sure all of you have that person that really means something to you. And it was Carolyn Hardy. She was the gym teacher, but she also taught dance. And she connected to me in a way that I carry with me now, the love of dance. And one year, she took me, asked my mother, because I was raised in a single home, asked my mother if she could take me to Ford Auditorium, which is like a huge venue in Detroit. Could she take me to be a part of a poet? And I mean, now you call them slams, but back then it was just these poets. And it was on the stage, and they were in a circle, and each poet would start his poem or her poem. And she said to me, go in the middle and improvise. And I was like, okay. And just the freedom of that is what she taught me. How there is a part of your being as a performer that has to have that freedom. And I was in high school, when she taught me that.
I think a lot of us would have been terrified if somebody said, get in the middle of the circle and start dancing, improvising.
But that's the thing about someone that mentors you. You believe what they say to you. And it was so, I can remember to this day the feeling of being in the circle with all of those poets and just moving to what I heard. I can still feel that. It was an amazing experience.
Well, you had the experience later when we get to the slides of Color
Yes.
Girls. So right now we're going to start our slideshow, which is going to be a lot of fun because you're going to be amazed at some of the things. So this is from the piano lesson, August Wilson. Some of you have seen that play. Yes, you have. Oh, wow. You want to talk about your journey with that? Because that's quite a story.
The first thing was I didn't audition for it, which is it was unusual because Lloyd Richards, who directed it, he was also the dean at Yale Drama School. I couldn't get arrested for anything Lloyd did. I could not get arrested. And so I got this call. Again, this is the people in your lives who make the difference. Meg Simon is a casting person in New York. And Meg Simon saw me do a one-woman show called Lady Day at Emerson's Bar and Grill. And there's a whole story behind that.
Yeah, we'll get that one too. Okay.
But the woman who had been playing Bernice was doing a film. So they needed someone, because the show was going to Chicago, they needed someone to take the part. And without an audition, I got into an August Wilson play with Lloyd Richards directing that was going to the Goodman Theater. And I remember the woman who played the part initially called to tell me that she was pleased that I was holding her space. And I was like, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So we started the rehearsal, and they had already done a production of it,
Right.
and all the guys knew what they were doing, and I got stuck like watching them, not paying attention, watching them because it was magnificent, the work that these brothers had done on this play. And at one point, I remember Lloyd telling Charles Dutton, who told me as we were driving back to New York, you have to stop laughing. Because I said, but y'all don't understand, the things that you're doing, they're funny. And he said, yeah, but Lloyd doesn't.
You don't like it.
He doesn't like it. He's not sure you could do the part. And I was like, okay. I had 9 days to learn the show. And on the 10th day, we were at the Goodman Theater opening the piano lesson. It was one of those experiences that, again, probably every experience I've had is memorable. But that one was because I ended up taking the part, getting the part, and doing it at the Golden Theater on Broadway.
You went to Broadway, and I saw it, and it was spectacular.
That was fun.
What's next? What did I do? I went the wrong way? Oh, there we go.
That's Home.
Home.
Sam Art Williams. Now, this was before Piano Lesson. Things might not be in order, but Sam and I and another actor, Elaine Graham.
Wait, pause.
Sam Art Williams.
Wrote.
He wrote
Yeah.
it, but Sam Jackson.
Thank you, Samuel L. Jackson. Yeah, that's right.
Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah, right.
In fact, I've literally known him since I moved to New York. I ended up taking over their apartment, he and his wife LaTanya, when they bought a brownstone. I took over their apartment.
Okay.
But literally, we were on the road with this play. This was Woody King.
Yeah. Oh, we need to talk about that.
Yeah.
You want to go to Woody?
This was Woody King. And Woody King, I remember at one point, Elaine Graham and I went to Woody, and we said, we want to do Home, and we want to do it in Bermuda, and we want to do it in May. And we went to Bermuda in May. It was amazing. We did it with Charles Brown, not Sam. But Sam and Elaine and I toured the show off and on for about 3 years. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And one of your first jobs in New York was with Woody King.
Yeah, Woody King literally, I did 6 shows at Henry Street.
Wow.
A couple of them were really, really good. And then there were a couple that really stank. We did a play, a musical called Adam, about Adam Clayton Powell. And the guy who played Adam couldn't sing. So he started out with 6 songs. And then in weekend rehearsal, it was 4. And then another weekend rehearsal, it was 2. And by the time the show went up, he didn't sing
at all.
Song.
I know I saw the show. I was going to say I remember. So, no, wait a minute. Because when you were in college, they were doing Pearly.
Yes.
And what is the director?
Well, Pearly had already been cast.
Right.
Ludi May had already been cast before I got to school.
Uh-huh.
And they wanted me to participate, so I ended up doing the choreography for
But
it.
they asked you something, right?
What did they ask me? You remember more
They
than I
asked
do.
you, they said, do not audition for Ludi.
Oh, they literally did.
No, because they
How do you remember all
because-
this and I don't?
because no, because you could
No, that was the truth.
you could sing for
I could
real.
sing.
And they had a senior whose turn it was to do the role. So just know, young people, sometimes you don't get the role not because you're not the best.
Please know that.
Yeah, because and I heard that play too.
Yeah, that was rough. 'Cause Miss Thing couldn't sing.
She could.
Miss Thing could not hold a tune. You know how painful that is. And you standing up there giving them choreography, and Miss Thing is up there. I got love.
That's the truth.
It was crazy.
It was the truth.
It was crazy.
But the choreography was good.
The choreography was
Did I go the wrong way?
superb.
Yeah, I went the wrong way, didn't I? Okay, there we go.
Oh, this is what. Oh, y'all even have the titles and everything at the. Did I do that?
You did that.
See,
I didn't do that. You did that. I
I'm
didn't know what to-
organized too sometimes. But this was a play that I did with Clarice Taylor. It was called Moms. And there's an amazing writer, Alice Childress.
Oh, yes.
The script was written by Alice. And we went up to upstate New York in the Catskills, and we stayed at a place that was the Albinos. It was called Albinos Motel, but we called it the Albino Motel. And one day when we were up there, they wanted to mess with me, and because they know that I'm not about going and hiking. It's just not my
Bugs.
thing. It just
Yeah.
hiking.
Yeah.
No. And so they decided to take me up in the mountains. So we ended up going on this hike, unbeknownst to me, and literally they didn't sign in. This was not a good thing. They didn't sign in. And if anyone hikes, they know when you go into the mountains and things like that, they have a sign in. So if anything happens, you can be located. We ended up, I mean, there was a place where you could eat drink fresh, cool water. We finally got to the top of this mountain, and it was so foggy, we couldn't see shit. And that'll be the only cuss word I'm going to use. But we couldn't see shit. I was so mad. And then by the time we got down, we had to get our things and go to the theater. We had no time to relax.
Wow.
That performance that night, and Clarice was old at that point. Clarice there was a piano. She pulled the cover off the piano. I mean, we were all so tired. That's what I remember about that play.
And people remember Clarice from The Cosby Show,
The Cosby
right? She played,
Show,
yeah.
yes. And this was a movie called Loose Cannons that I got to do with Gene Hackman. And I just put that in there because I got to work with Gene Hackman.
With Billy?
He was so cool, too. This one guy, and it was the first time I had done something that I had to wear a pistol. Go back to that.
Okay.
Just look at my fingernails. I had nails and everything wearing that wig. But it was the first time that I worked with a gun. And so they had a guy, who came with the armorer, who came, and we all know what that's about now with the whole thing that's happening with Alec Baldwin. But he was really specific about keeping the gun in the holster, not playing with the gun, not giving the gun to anyone. And one of the actors came over to me and asked, could he see the gun? And I was like, no, because, no. And literally from that experience, whenever on Law and Order I was given my gun, sometimes they'd just hand it to me and I'd go, open it, let me see what's in it, and then you give it to me. And if I saw them doing it to someone else, I'd stop them and I'd go, open it, let the actor see it. It is really serious if you work with weapons, to be sure that you are careful, because shit happens. That's the only word I'm going to use. It's the only one I'm going to use.
But it's real.
I go beyond that, but it's the only one I'm going to use. But it's a real important thing. Keep that in your brain and in your heart, that stuff can happen. And it's important that everyone is safe. But
this is really true.
But Gene Hackman, I went into it was lunch, and I went into the lunchroom, and there were two sides of the lunchroom. I didn't know that I was supposed to go to a specific side, but the guy was really mean, the chef, and he was like, go on the other side. And I said, I was told to come over here, and he was like, go on the other side. And behind me, this voice says, you're talking to my co-star. I wasn't a co-star, but it was Gene Hackman. And he said, and she belongs over here. And the guy was like, I'm so sorry. The next day I went in there, the guy was gone. Because I was working with Gene Hackman.
That's a story I didn't know. That's fabulous.
This is Birdie Blue. I did this with Billy Porter. And Billy Porter told, I wish I had a picture of that. Billy Porter and I, when we were doing this play, he said, you know, I've written this play about my life, and I want you to play my mother. And, you know, people will say that all the time. I wrote this play. Can you be in my play? And I was like, okay, Billy, okay. And then he brought the play, While I Yet Live, that I had the opportunity to do, and it was an amazing experience. His mother just passed away recently, but she had been physically handicapped as a young woman, and this was about her progression and Billy's coming out. It was a beautifully written play.
Yeah, we saw it. You know, It's amazing. I'm sitting here going, like, everything you talk about, I've seen.
Get out.
I guess I'm a big fan, huh?
Well, but no, you're my school buddy.
That's
you're
true.
supposed to come and see what I do.
Okay, good. All right. You haven't seen any of my work lately. Okay, good. Okay.
Be careful what you say. You can come back on it.
Cool, buddy. Here we go.
Oh, this is what I'm doing now.
Chicago.
Yeah.
I think they like your show.
And so let me admit, costume shop.
You're not supposed to wear your costume.
Look, I don't go anywhere without going to the costume shop now. I don't think I bought clothes for 9 years. But let me tell you, because when you go on the set, you're taking off your clothes to put on your character's clothes. So why buy clothes when you're going to take them off? So, you know, usually, and I said, go on in there how you usually look. You pay to put your sneakers on, but I said, no, come on, let's give them a little something. So this is Sharon Goodwin that I'm wearing.
Now.
Okay, I must have been about, I wasn't wearing a bra. Okay.
You want me to play song?
I must have been like 20, maybe 26 or something like that. This was a play called Bebop, a hip musical. And these are the actual musicians that played jazz. Walter Davis played piano. Bob Cunningham played bass. Gary Bartz is still playing. Tony Azito had done some really wonderful things on Broadway, and he passed away very early. Charles, the drummer, his name, Charlie Persip. Charlie Persip, Neva Small, whose parents literally bought her everything. This girl, all her costumes were bought by her parents. And it was a mess. It was a mess. And I went to meet Dizzy Gillespie at one point. He's written a book. And I said, I'm doing a play now. We're using some of your music. It's called Bebop, a hip musical. And he went, you with that crazy girl? And Marion Cowens is still singing jazz to this day. And Joe Turner was the trumpet player. And Celestine Desazure, I think, is in Atlanta now. She teaches. But we would have an 11 a.m. a rehearsal time. And maybe by 3 o'clock, the musicians would come. Because they had played a gig the night before. Mm-hmm. And sometimes they would come in, they would be as high as a kite. And they would just start playing the music. So there were days where we literally did not have rehearsal, but we were listening to some of the most amazing jazz. It was incredible. That was a great experience.
What did I do?
I don't know. Okay. So this was from Law and Order.
You're going to identify all these people
for us? Yeah, let me identify. It's up there. It's up there.
Good. Wait a minute. Were they all on the show?
No.
What happened?
This is how this happened. I had met Toni Morrison. I used to host a book event. And of course, Toni Morrison would be at a book event. And so I had met her, I don't know, years before this. And at one point, a friend of hers, Toni Cade Bambara, had passed away, and Toni was taking her book to publication, and she wanted to do a reading from the book. So that afternoon at the 92nd Street Y, we read passages. There were like 3 of us that read passages from the book, and afterwards we all went out to dinner. And we're sitting there, this Fran Lebowitz, Sonia Sanchez, and Eileen Ahern. They're all poets, and Fran is just like an incredible person. But anyway, we're sitting at the table, and Fran says out loud, "Okay, we've been sitting here for like 20 minutes. Are we going to ask her about Law and Order?" And I said, "Oh, y'all want to come hang out with me on set?" And she was like, "Are you kidding?" So they came. And literally, the crew started calling them my literary posse. So they're all like on set, and we thought, or I thought, they would come, they would stay a couple of hours, and they would leave. They had lunch with us. They stayed all day. And at one point, they were sitting in front of the monitor while we're shooting, and Toni saw the board where all the perpetrators are on. And she said, "Why are all the perpetrators on this board black?" And about 10 people ran to that board, and when I looked up, it was black and white. And I was like, that's power. That's power. She made changes. And then Fran ended up coming on as Janice Silverman, a judge. And she said to me, "I should be a judge. I'm the most judgmental."
Oh. Woo. Everybody was proud.
This was my first TV gig.
6 years, right? 6 years.
Yeah, and it's a great story. It's a long story, but I'll make it short.
Make it long.
I was doing some theater, and on the way, my agent had given me this audition. It's this thing called Pee Wee's Playhouse, he said. It's a Saturday morning thing. And when I leave the house, I would always get my mail from the day before, and I had a big bag. You know, when you go to rehearsal, everything is in your bag, right? So I had my bag, and I'd stop on my way to the theater for this audition for this TV thing. And so this little girl, it was only me and this little girl, and because she was younger than me, and she was like, "Okay, this is Pee Wee's Playhouse. You're the mail lady, and so you're going to deliver mail." And I said, "There's no sides?" And she said, "No." And I was like, okay. So I went in my bag, and I said, "Oh, look, Pee Wee, here's something from Con Edison. Did you pay your bill?" "Oh, and here's something from the Museum of Natural History." Them bolden, dry bolden. And it cracked me up. She did not think it was funny. So she requested that I do it again and maybe not laugh. And I said, okay. And I did it again, and I was like, you know what, this is my audition. So I did it again, because that's what the Museum of Natural History is. So I don't hear anything for 2 weeks, and I was like, okay, I messed that up. So okay. And then I get a call from my agent that they want to see me. And I walk into this room, and I'm introduced to the producers, the director, this guy named Paul Rubens, and the person I think that's going to read with me. And this guy, Paul, has got long hair and a goatee. So I'm still not sure who Pee Wee is. And let me tell you, this is a lesson, too. If you're going to go to an audition, know what you're going for. I did not know who Pee Wee Herman was. And I went up in that audition, and this guy who was he looked like a hippie. He had short, cut-off pants, and so we're doing this audition with him. He said, no, she's going to read with me. But he just made me laugh, and I leaned over at one point, and I said, can you stop making me laugh? You're going to make me lose this gig. And he went, highly impossible. So I get the gig. I go to set. The first thing we shoot is this big party. You can go back and see. And he comes over to me in this outfit. And I was like, oh, my God. And he said, you didn't know, did you? And literally I kept saying to him, Paul, you're going to make me lose this job. Because at one point the director was like, we need to do this scene. How do we get this scene? And I said, well, I can't look at him. Because he had this plate of, what do you call it? The hot dogs that are wrapped around. Pigs in a blanket. And he kept going, there's pigs in the blanket. He would look at me like this and make me laugh. And I pulled him to the side and I said, Paul, please, you're going to make me lose this job. And he went, no, it's called Pee Wee Herman. And I'm Pee Wee Herman. Yeah, he was such a nice man. And when he passed away recently, I was able to speak at his funeral. And one of the producers was there. And I told that story that I just told you. And he said, oh, we all saw your audition. We all saw it. Oh, this was with Angela Bassett. We did a bookworm with Mr. Cosby. I did another show with him, with Malcolm Jamal Warner. It was called Here and Now. And it was about this kid who ran an after-school program. And he would bring out all these pretty girls for Malcolm as love interests or people that would come into the place. And one of the girls was Lauryn Hill, Kenya Moore. And he would have me work with these young women on their acting. So he just called me coach. Yeah.
I'm going to show a couple more, then we're going to open up so people can ask questions, because I know they want to.
Because I can tell some stories.
I know you can. Oh, I skipped one. Wait a minute.
That's all right.
Okay, Williamstown. Yeah, that's right. This is important.
Yeah.
Talk about Lackawanna.
Okay. Yeah.
You just got a compliment from Keith over there.
So this is another one of those things where George Wolfe at the Public Theater, I couldn't get arrested at the Public Theater. And so I went to this audition totally, okay, so if I get it, cool. If not, but I'm going to do my best in the audition. And he was like, this is your part. It was so amazing. And I said, but y'all got to pay me. Because it's HBO. And I can't do things for free anymore. I had been doing, things for a little bit of, you have to know your worth. You have to know your worth. And I knew I could wear that movie out. I knew I could wear that part out, but I wasn't.
What was it about that movie that felt, well, Reuben, of course. I mean, it's Reuben's.
Yeah, and I had seen the play. It was a one-man, it started as a one-man show by Reuben Santiago Hudson. Mm-hmm. And I remember going to see it, and he said, yeah, you know, HBO bought it. It might be something in that for you. Who knew it was going to be the lead, you know?
And a couple of awards. What'd you win on that show?
I won a bunch. I got the Emmy, the Golden Globe, the SAG Award. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that year I swept it.
And then, this will stop with this because I want you to tell the story of money.
This is how I got my equity card. This was a tour for colored girls. And so we're talking 1978. And the woman on the left, who is no longer on my left, she's no longer with us. Her name is Yvette Hawkins. And we shared a dressing room. The understudies shared a dressing room with the women who were on stage. And one day she's putting on her makeup and she said, I'm going to tell you some things that I wish somebody had told me. While you're on the road, take out a loan and pay it back. So when you get back to New York, you have credit. Credit is important because you got to live, right? You want to do this work, you have to live. So sometimes you might need to use a credit card. Do everything that you can to let people know your work ethic and what you can do. And then the last thing she said, and I do that to this day, every check, buy something for yourself. A comb, a brush, a bottle of wine, a pair of underwear, whatever it is, because you earned the money. You earned to buy yourself something. And to this day, I do that. When I know the check is coming, I might just go and buy a Mr. Goodbar. But it's on purpose. This is what I worked for this day. But she passed away at very early, at 53. And Sati Jamal and Bill Duke is a great film director, and that's LaTanya Richardson, Sam Jackson's wife.
That's it, right?
We talked about that.
We talked about her already. And I'm just doing the last ones.
Yeah. This was from We the People. And David Allen Greer David Allen Greer and Craig Robinson are two of the funniest men to work with. I mean, literally, they had to move there was a piano on our set. They had to move it because Craig Robinson is a musician. He plays piano. He taught music school before he started comedy. And they would get on the piano and we would start singing and the whole day would be gone. And they were like, we are losing time with these people.
And time is money. And so let's do some questions.
Yes.
Questions. Anyone have questions? We have a microphone that'll go around. If there's anyone. There's one over here.
Stand, baby. Speak up.
Yeah, they're bringing them a mic.
No, let them project. Let him project. Are you an actor? Oh,
okay, go.
Boom. I wanted you to project, baby.
I got you.
Look at this voice.
But use the mic. Use the mic.
At the end of the day, one of my questions that's always kind of sat with me is, what was something that sat with you for a bit longer that didn't resonate with everyone else that you would rather leave with us today, if you could?
Sat in what way?
Something that kind of
Positive,
or negative. How did it change the way that you moved, the way that you acted, the way that you decided to continue on in your career?
I'll tell you, I told them this story last night. I told Vincent and Michael this story last night.
Vince is my husband.
I was understudy for a play called Tin Types. It was on off Broadway, and I collect black memorabilia, and the play takes place in the early 1900s, and I said to them very seriously that I have music on my walls that would be better used for this play. And then the play, the two other understudies invited me to dinner. And when I got to the young lady's house, she opened the door and said, "We're going to Broadway." And I had not been asked. And I had dinner that night. And I don't know how I got through it because I was broke as a church mouse. And I remember leaving that apartment and saying, sometimes keep your mouth shut. That what's important sometimes is doing the work. And so I would say, when you speak, make sure that you can back up what you're saying, but also understand the consequences of your words. And I think that goes with anything, not just work.
That your words carry weight.
But with anything. And that was a hard lesson. That was hard.
Hello, my name is Benny Lumpkins. I'm also from Detroit. Also went to Wayne State, but I was a member of the Hillberry for a year. And while I was there, you came to speak on campus, and you talked about the struggles that you had in your career and how you stayed persistent, and how you eventually became successful and got the roles that you wanted. I was soon kicked out of that program because I was told that I wasn't talented enough. And so from that, I quit. But I remembered the conversation that you had had with all the students, and I transitioned my career to do costuming, and I did 10 years in Hollywood in costuming. Now I'm a director and Broadway producer, off-Broadway producer. But I'm saying all that to say, could you speak a little bit more on persistent and keep it in the game and keep going in this career, because we all know how tough it can be.
Well, I'll tell you, the thing that when I went to New York, because of my experience at Wayne State, we did like 2 black productions a year at Wayne State. I think that may have changed by the time you were there, but they were doing a production of Amen Corner, and I was told by my counselor that I was too young to play the lead and too good to play the small parts, and so I wasn't in the play. They went out into the community and cast a play, and I'm like, but I'm paying you all this money to get this experience, so let me work on it. And what it did was, when I got to New York, I wasn't really sure what I had, but I knew I wanted to do this. So I got there and I said, here is your plan. As long as you're working, you stay. You're smart enough that if this doesn't work out, which you did, you change your focus. But I was able to do what I set out to do by ignoring those things that happened. Because I would work with Michael, we would work in the student shows. Right. That's how I got to do No Place to Be Somebody and The Blacks, by working with student directors. So you can't let these schools also tell you what you don't have. And when they do, just go through it in your head and say.
That's exactly right. One of the things.
Good afternoon. Once again, thank you so much for being here with us. So I've had the pleasure of directing the production of Lady Day at Emerson Bar and Grill, and I remember the day I opened the script and I saw your name. I geeked out big time. And so I just want to say that, I basically ask you, of course, I think many of us are probably familiar with what Audra McDonald has done, previously. But I would like to ask you, what was your process, your creative process of channeling Billie Holiday?
I would have directed her differently, but, she wanted Tony, so shut up, you begged. When I got the show, unfortunately, it was another understudy, and this was a guy who I had been trying to audition for forever, Danny Holgate.
Oh yes.
And he left a message for me on my phone, and he was like, "Listen, there's this show, and I think I figured out what you do well. Come and audition for me." And when I got the show, Lynette McKee, who had originated the part, was sick. So I had to see I didn't see the show. I had to go by what I knew. You okay? Oh. The water went down the wrong pipe. Don't be sorry.
I'm interrupting your story.
No, you're not.
I feel so bad. Okay.
Do you need a cough drop?
I'm okay now.
No, you're not. It's not okay.
Die right here. Start it again.
Okay.
Go on. All right. Go on.
But anyway, cool. So I had to. Are you okay for real?
I'm okay.
Okay. That was a moment.
Oh, yes. Cut that out.
But literally, I had to go on what I knew of Billie Holiday and the history of Billie Holiday. And the director did not know the history. And so he and I did not see eye to eye. And it was another one of those things where I knew one song. I knew God Bless the Child. And so I had to learn, I think it was 15 songs, and I had to learn 47 or 48 pages of words in 6 days. Back in those days, I was a quick study. So I could pick things up really quickly. I'll be 72 this year. It's not as easy. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Go on, baby.
It's not as easy anymore. But anyway, it was an amazing experience to do that show for me. And it was that show that literally changed the trajectory of my career because Meg Simon came to see it. And one of the things that I don't want is to know who's in the house. Mm-hmm. Because I think that takes away from your performance. You're performing for someone and not for the body, the script,
that's right.
What it's about. Mm-hmm. And I'll never forget, because the whole idea is that she doesn't want to do the show. So I could come out with my head down, and then once she gets the confidence in the song that she's singing, her head comes up. And one night I saw this big head of hair and a fur coat, and in the middle of it was Diana Ross. Mm-hmm. But it was really, literally, it changed my life because from that came the piano lesson, and then there was a Law and Order producer, Joe Stern, who was a huge theater person, and he came to see piano lesson, and I ended up doing a character in the first season of Law and Order. And from that, it led to Van Buren. So there was a point in my life where all the hard work I had done culminated in Lady Day at Emerson's Bar and Grill.
We had a professor at Wayne State who used to say it takes 8 years for people to know who you are to be able to call you in. That's one thing. But the other story I want you to tell before I lose my voice is what happened when you went in to audition for Dick Wolf? What had to happen in terms of...
Oh,
this is funny.
I had done like 3 or 4 different shows, television, little small things on television. And I was determined that I was going to do it with natural hair. I was like, I'm not wearing a wig. I'm not. And so when I went to see Dick, he had known me from the earlier episode, and then I did a couple of other things with him. So Chicago Med is like the fourth show that I've done with Dick Wolf. And he went, we've got this, we want to bring on this character, and, the hair. What's with the hair? And I said, what do you mean? And he said, well, you've done these things here with that, the afro and stuff. What? And I said, Dick, I'll come and see you, and we'll do something. I had twists in my hair then. I took them out, brushed my hair back, and put a little bow on the back. And I walked in, and he said, that's Van Buren. Mm-hmm. And then when I did my research, there were only 4 women at the time. There were only 4 women in the boroughs who were lieutenants. And none of them, there was one black woman. Miss Thing had on a beautiful coif. And I'm like, so you have to play this character like these ladies are living now. You can't wear natural hair. It won't be palatable to the people you have to work for. So that's where the wig came in. But there was one woman, her name was Barbara Cecilia. I'll never forget this. They got PR, got me an opportunity to meet her, and she was at the most, what's the word? Midtown North was the precinct in New York City. She was the lieutenant at Midtown North. So you knew this bitch had to be strong. Oh,
what should? So shit and bitch. It's 2 and a finger.
That's the second one. Forgive me, but anyway, Miss Thing was fierce, right? Mm-hmm. So when I meet her, she's standing on the stoop. She knew I was coming. She's standing on the stoop at the precinct in this like shirtwaist dress. Mm. She's got on a little sweater. She looks like an Italian mother, literally. Short black hair. I mean, a little round. And the minute we walked through that door, everything changed. Her demeanor changed, and I saw the lieutenant. And then when we walked into her office and the door closed, she started giggling. And I said, you have to tell me what just happened. And she said, I'm their lieutenant. They have to respect me. She said, this is between you and I. But when I walk out of this door, they know I'm the lieutenant. And I was like, that's Van Buren.
You got it there. We have time for one more question right here.
Hello.
Hi.
I'm Maggie McLeod. I'm from South Carolina, and I major in film and entertainment at an academy called AST. And I started off with theater, and it turns out like you've been on stage and doing theater yourself, but you also done TV acting. In what ways did theater help you open up to TV acting and access that type of career? And also, what did you learn from theater to help you with that career in TV acting?
Character work. Serious character work. And the thing about doing film and television is that you don't do it in sequence. So doing theater makes you understand how to follow a character through scene by scene. So you have to break that down when you're doing film, because you might start at the end of the film where you're devastated. And at the beginning of it, you have to go back to the beginning, and everything has to match. So theater was really the teacher to show me how to make a script work backwards and forwards. You know, when you start theater, you start from the beginning and work your way through. You can't do that in film. So you have to do that on your own. You have to get it together so you know exactly what you're feeling at every time. There's no, what do I do? What do I do? You have to work that out, and you work that out because you're given that skill in the theater. The theater is really the basis for me. And now that I've been doing this all this time, every other year I try to go back to the stage, because there is something about being on stage that you don't get when you're doing film and television.
This is real true. You know, that's the perfect place and the perfect moment to say, Doctor, 4 honorary degrees. And Terminator 2, saving Joe's life. Appreciate that. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, baby.